Have you ever wondered why some people seem to thrive in a new country while others come crawling back home within months? I see it happen all the time. Um, it's not about language skills, it's not about money. It's really about one thing most people completely overlook. And I talk about this all the time. It's knowing your why. And trust me, if you don't have a rock solid why, you literally are setting yourself up for failure. So I'm going to share a story, well, a letter that someone wrote me because recently I spoke briefly about the importance of having your why. At the age of 69, this is from a lady named BZ. At the age of 69, I went on a 1 week mission trip to Cayo, Belize with a group from my church. One hot and humid morning, as I stood on a dusty and rocky road there, I felt a sense of peace that I had never felt before in my life. My spirit was telling me this was where I needed to be. 1 year later, I returned to Belize because I had found my why. It was my why that closed my ears to the naysayers who told me I was crazy to move from the United States, especially as a single woman. It was my why that made me listen and learn about this country that had once been known as British Honduras and where the English language was predominantly spoken. It was my why that gave me the courage to walk through the doors that I didn't even know were there in front of me as I toured the country with a Belizean lady who had opened her doors to me while I decided if Punta Gorda was where I would feel comfortable in this Central American country. 3 years later, after touring all 6 districts, making many friends, volunteering my efforts, and enriching my life, I moved to Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Here, I continued to enlarge my family of friends worldwide while learning a new language, becoming acquainted with new cultures, and living a much more affordable lifestyle in a little piece of paradise only 2.5 blocks from a beach. I am living a dream life. And why? Because I have found my why, which was peace, the kind that passes all understanding. Whatever your why is, let it propel you forward to live in the world that you only dream about or would like to have. Only you know what that is, and don't let anybody snatch your dream away from you. Who knows where you may end up? A good place to start could be Merida, Mexico. Move abroad and thrive, not just survive. Cartes is there with a helping hand to show you the way. Just make sure you keep your why in front of you. And this was written by a young lady named BZ. She wanted to use this pen name BZ, and so I'm respecting her wishes. Listen, y'all, if you don't have a why, man, because there's gonna be some trouble for many folks that make this move. You're gonna get frustrated with the cultural differences, the old ways and the ways you're used to doing things. Sometimes those habits, man, those cultural norms that we have is very difficult. And it's difficult to break. It's very difficult to adjust and adapt to a complete new way of life. And so that's why oftentimes people they turn around within months and they're running back home because they can't deal with the changes. And really this why, I mean, it's literally like jet fuel. It's the thing that's gonna push you forward. It's gonna keep you on track. It's gonna keep you in place and help keep you grounded. For me, my why was getting my finances straight. I've shared this story many times. I'm not going to go in depth about it again. I'm 50 years old now. I made this journey 3 years ago when I was 47, and then I was like, man, I'm not going to be ready for retirement. I didn't save my money. I didn't invest. I don't have no savings, and it's like, man, I got about a good 10 solid working years where I can maximize my income and maximize my work, put in all the work that's necessary to get this money saved up, and looking at, say, hey, I need to buy a house, I need to pay it off, do all of this over the next 10 years so I don't have a mortgage, so I don't have these expenses and all of that. And so my why was I needed to cut I needed to cut my expenses drastically. And so I got to looking around and thinking about how can I cut my living expenses. And so I was like, okay, the first thing that need to be cut is the rent or the mortgage. I need to slice that in half. And what would that look like, slicing the rent in half? And so I started looking at neighborhoods online and seeing, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to live in them neighborhoods. I don't want to live on that side of town. I don't know, I ain't used to living like that. And so it was like, So you get creative, you start thinking, you start planning, and it was like, I remember when we lived in Columbia, we was living in a nice penthouse suite. We had a maid that was a housekeeper that was coming to the house 6 days a week, cooking and cleaning for us for $300 a month. I started remembering taking these Uber rides, hopping in the Uber, going across town, and then getting a notification on my phone saying I was only charged 94 cents. And I was like, cell phone plans for $10 and $15 a month, make all these calls. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't have to move over there to that bad side of town, living in some shack, trying to plan this out. I was like, I can move abroad and live better there than I was here, and at half the cost, in some cases 70%, at half the cost, and still keep my little dignity. You know what I mean? I was like, and have some more perks and benefits and all of that. So it was like, well, look like moving abroad gonna be the way. And so that was my why. My why was, I gotta get these finances in order. I can't afford to stay here in the States and I won't be able to save as much with the amount that I'm spending. So it was like, okay, if I can cut all my expenses by 50%, that money I can start stacking and saving and investing and saving so we can buy a house, buy some land, buy a house or build a house or however, pay off or buy a car, pay that off. And I'm like, I could do all of that in 10 years and have zero debt and be making money. And so that was my why. I need to be prepared for retirement so I'm not dependent on my adult children to take care of me. I want them to be able to live their life. I don't want to be shacked up living with them because I didn't do it right. And it happens all the time. And so, and not that it's a bad thing, it's just that I recognize the pattern. I recognize that if I don't get this corrected, that's likely what it'll be, or I'll be working. And I don't want, listen, I love doing web design. I love doing marketing. Been doing it for 20 plus years. That's how I supported our family of 7, was from the skill sets that I learned. But at 75 years old, I don't want to be hunched over the computer trying to keep up with the changes in social media and HTML and Java code strips. I don't want to, my brain ain't moving as fast as it was when I was 25 and 30. And I'm like, I don't want to be doing the web design at 70 years old. Shucks, I'm already burnt out from it, So it's like, I got to get it right. So when I come here and I hit some hardships and some roadblocks, I'm not so anxious to get back home so quick, because it goes back to, if I go back home, am I going to achieve the goals, the financial goals that I have set? Am I going to be able to thrive? Am I going to be able, would I be ready in 10 years if I go back home? And so once I answer that question, like, hell no, yeah, man, if you take back to the States, man, you're going to be working till you're 75. You're going to be living with your children. So I quickly get back on track and like, all right, these little inconveniences ain't gonna run me out of here. Merida, very hot, very, very hot. Hottest, one of the hottest places on earth. And so folks is like, man, that heat is not running you off because it runs everybody else off. But because of my why, it's like, no, I ain't gonna let the heat run me up out of here because so far so good. On track, made some significant progress, doing some big things here and opportunities that I could not have ever foreseen. Opportunities are opening up in ways that I could not have ever imagined unless I arrived here. So the idea that my finances are going to be even better in in another year or two in the years to come because of opportunities that opened up because of this channel. This channel would not exist if I didn't come here. I wouldn't be talking to you all about moving abroad if I wasn't here. Many of you all who also find yourselves in a similar situation, financial predicament like me, maybe y'all would not have thought about this angle of, what's the word I'm looking for, of hacking location, moving to a place where your finances, you can have more money by living in an area where cost of living is significantly less. Because we have that US dollar, we're able to live a much more quality life on the monies that we earn than the locals do per se. Wouldn't be able to live this way in the States. You know, so there are many places across the world where your dollar goes a long way. You following me? So for me, it was like, okay. Because I remember, believe it or not, living in Colombia is even cheaper. Way cheaper. I'm talking about significantly, noticeably cheaper in Colombia than it is in Mexico. And from my understanding, from what I hear from other people, it's even cheaper. You know, Thailand and Vietnam is even cheaper than Colombia. It's hard for me to even fathom the fact that Thailand and Vietnam is cheaper than Colombia because I just can't wrap my brain around something being cheaper than Colombia because Colombia it's ridiculous, ridiculously cheap. So this is why it's important to understand your why, because it'll help keep you grounded. It'll help keep you from running off. It'll help keep you from going back home at the first sign of trouble because trouble is coming your way. Trouble and frustration is coming your way. And when you don't have a strong why to keep you at bay, you're going to retreat. You're going to run back. It's easy to go back. And we got sick when we first got here. We had surgery. 2 of us had emergency surgeries. Kids were diagnosed with different other stuff. And everybody was like, oh, you need to go back home. You need to go back to the States. I was like, no. Going back to the States, it throws a wrench in the plan. And why do I need to go back to the States when I can sort out the healthcare system here? You see what I'm saying? And I think, I mentioned this many times before my daughter been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I don't think we would have gotten the quality of care from the physicians in the United States that we got here. And I'm part of many Facebook groups with parents who deal with the same thing that we're dealing with, getting advice. And I hear the horror stories that they have trying to get treatment for their loved ones. It's insane. And so when I'm able to tell them the options that I have here for treatment, they're blown away. They're like, where you at? I think I need to come check that out, because I'm getting all kinds of roadblocks here in the United States. And so here, have a lot more flexibility and have a lot more say in her treatment process. You know, one of the drugs that she take is so regulated and so controlled that most doctors don't even, because of the restrictions, most doctors don't even like to prescribe it. It becomes the drug, it's the last drug of choice that they use. If all the other stuff fail, it's the last drug that they will try. And when they actually try it, it actually works. But because of all the red tape and hoops, they got to jump to prescribe this medication. They don't do it. Here and in other parts of the world, the drug is the first drug of choice that they use. So we would have missed out on a whole lot of opportunity had we ran back instead of trying to figure out how to navigate the system. That's why that why is important. It's like if I was living in the United States and we were living in Georgia and I say we moved to Texas, I would, if we had a hard time in Texas trying to figure out the healthcare system, we wouldn't drive all the way back to Georgia to go to the doctor. We would figure out the healthcare system in Texas because that's where we live now. And that's the same thing here. It was like, I'm not going back to the United States to figure out, this is where we live. This is how we need to navigate it. There are going to be plenty more things that come up that we're going to need to learn how to navigate. So that why, again, after they started breaking it down, it was like, should we go home? If we go home, this is what we're going to be dealing with. This is what we're going to be facing. This is and so it became, nope, we sit tight. We navigate this system, we figure it out. And because of that, we've helped many other folks see and figure it out. Now folks watching these channels, watching these videos, and they're like, I can do it. Now, what's even more crazy is we have other Mexican, nationals, Mexicans from the United States. So, for example, many Mexican families have moved to the United States. They had children there, and the children are U.S. citizens, and they also have dual citizenship here. And so now these young folks are adults now, and they're watching our videos, and they're Mexican, and they're like, think I'm gonna return home. I'm gonna go back to Mexico. I like what these guys is showing. They had never thought about moving back to Mexico, but the content that we're sharing, Mexican nationals are coming home and they're reaching out and saying, man, you helped us a lot. And we need help coming back home. Because remember, they've been raised in the United States their whole life. You know, the Mexico that their parents knew is changed. So they're looking at our experience as people coming from the United States, and they're like, okay, this guy has figured it out, and he doesn't even speak Spanish, and if he's thriving, we speak Spanish, we can go there and thrive too. And so it's funny how this content is reaching folks on a whole nother level, all because I am willing to share my why, document this all for everybody to see. And so that's why it's important for you to have your why. So listen, like I say, your why is your emotional anchor. It's going to be the thing that gets you out of bed when everything you do seems or feels impossible. Your why is what is going to help you push through the language barriers and the challenges that you're going to go through, because that's going to be a challenge all in itself. It's going to be your why that pushes you through a lot of the cultural confusions and the misunderstandings. It's going to be the why that pushes you through the homesickness. Oh, I miss my family. I want to go back home. I want to see my dad. It's going to push you through all that. It's going to be your why. Is what help push you through some of the financial struggles that might come your way. It's going to be your why that pushes you through the moments of absolute isolation, because there's going to be some times when you're here, especially if you're an introvert and don't hang out much, you're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel like you're by yourself. You're going to feel like you don't got no help. You don't feel like you don't have no friends. You're going to feel like you have nobody to associate with, and it's going to be your why. And like I said, I see a lot of people, they move abroad without a clear, definitive why, and they think that the adventurous stuff is more than enough, and it ain't, because you run out of fun things to do. In the beginning, it's exciting. You're going out every day, you're eating lunch, you're eating dinner, you're eating at these new spots, you're going swimming in these underground caves called cenotes, you're going to these museums, you're going to these ruins, and you're climbing these pyramids, and you're doing all of this stuff, and then all of a sudden, You done did it all and you done wore it out and now you're exhausted and now it's just you by yourself with your thoughts and yourself. And for many of y'all, that's dangerous being by yourself. A lot of folk can't handle it. A strong why transforms everything. It's not just about surviving. It's about creating meaningful connections, personal growth, professional opportunities. A life-changing experience can be had if you play your cards right. So before you start packing up and just hopping on the plane and saying, hey, I'm just gonna roll up to Merida or Thailand or Vietnam, ask yourself some critical questions. Why am I really moving? Oftentimes, folks are running away from stuff, and we all are, myself included. You know what I mean? I'm no special. I'm not special. I was running away. But identify. You need to be able to jot this stuff down. Don't just keep it in your head. You need to put this stuff on paper. That's why I was so happy to see when she sent me this email. She had wrote this stuff out, and I was like, "Do you mind if I read and share your why with my audience? I think it will help some people." And she was like, "Oh, I'm so honored. Please do. Maybe it'll encourage somebody." And so it was like, hold on one second. Hey, y'all keep the noise down. So I'm sorry, I got this headphone on, sound like it's louder than it is, and it's coming through my headpiece. So why are you really moving? You really need to know that answer. You really need to know why you're moving. Again, ask the critical questions. What do I want to achieve? What is your goal? I mean, one of the things about knowing your why and writing down goals, you got to know what the end result is. What are you wanting to achieve? For me, it's okay. I want to have a sizable savings. I want to have a house that's completely paid off. When it's at the end of these 10 years, I want a house that's paid off in full. I want a house with solar panels on it. That way I don't have to have no expensive electric bill because of where I'm at. Our water bill is next to nothing. We don't have a water bill in the area we live in. And we got well water, so I don't have to pay that. The solar takes care of the electricity. What else? I'm trying to think of some other monthly expenses, big expenses. But if I don't have a mortgage and I don't have a car note, because again, what I hope to achieve, have a completely paid off car, so that way I don't have to be paying no car note. Have all my debts paid off. That's the end goal. That's what I want to achieve. So that way I can live. I have the minimal. Blah, 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 blah. I have the smallest amount of expenses at the end of each month, and that way I can live whatever I manage to save and invest and income I have coming in, Social Security and all of that. I'll be able to live comfortably because all of my debts and expenses are minimal. I met some families here, some people here, their monthly expenses with groceries, food, it's like $500 a month. They don't have, that's total. That includes their food, their groceries, their entertainment, the gas they put in the car. They go out to eat once or twice a week. Now, there ain't no big, giant, fancy restaurants and all, but that's their total expenses. And it's just like for a family of two. And so and again, for some folks can get lower than that. And so if you have a pension where your pension is $1,700 a month and you only out $530, you got about $1,200 a month left. And that's after you done bought food and went out to eat once or twice or went to the movie theater once or twice in the month. See how much, so the other thing, what's the other critical question to ask you before you start packing up, talking about I'm rolling? How will this move transform my life? You have to ask yourself that. You have to write this down. Your why isn't just a reason. It is your lifeline. It is everything. And so many people take this for granted. So If you don't have a clear why, you're not going to be successful abroad. Now, some people will get through the cracks. Some people will wither around and figure it out. Some people will make it. But if you don't have a clear why, you're not moving abroad. You're simply just running away. You're running away from something and you really can't even identify what you're running away from. So don't run away. Get clear on your why. What is your why? Let's break this down. It is that important. She started the title off with determine your why and don't let anybody steal your dream. When are you going to try to make your dreams come true so you can live your best life now? How are you going to enjoy your future when you have bullets flying all around your head? You are the only one who can take action to change your life. And she's right. Thank you, BZ. Y'all, again, let's get clear on that why. Break it down, jot it down, write it down. Now, I have in Move Abroad Academy, I have a goal setting section within that course where we spend time breaking down your goals. I mention this all the time. Less than 3% of the population have written goals. Less than 3%. Right? The people who write the goals, man, they achieve big things. You just have to write it down. You have to get it out of your head and break it down and break down steps. So oftentimes folks say, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to start fulfilling my dream. Well, it starts by writing it out. Write out your goals. Most people don't even know what they want. Most folks say, I want to live abroad, and you ask them where do they want to live, they can't even answer where they want to live. So that's why writing out your goals are very important. And then you break down your goals into these different steps, action steps. And so inside of Move Abroad Academy, I'll take you through the process. We'll break it down. We'll write the goals together. We'll go step by step. I got a link in the description below. I got a link in the comments to the Academy. Join it. It'll be the best investment you'll ever make in yourself. This is an investment in you. And whatever it is you want to do, it's not just about writing out goals just to say, hey, I want to live abroad or move abroad. You write down the top 10 things you want to achieve, regardless of how impossible it seems. Because I'm telling you, some of the projects we got in the works is just unimaginable to me just a year ago. 2 years ago, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now and the opportunities that are opening up, I wouldn't have never even imagined. But something about getting outside your comfort zone forces you to stretch and stretch and stretch. And the more you're willing to stretch, the more opportunities and come your way, the more confident you get. You can't ever get to a place where you just content with staying. You can't stay in the same place. I wrote something the other day on my Facebook page. I'm gonna see if I can find it. And this was a great thing that hit me. Don't live the same year 75 times and call it a life. Listen to that. Don't live the same year 75 times and call it a life. You don't want to get to 75 years old doing the same thing you've been doing every single year. And when you look back, you realize, I really didn't live a full life. And I post all these quotes on my page. It's time to focus on you. You did enough for the ungrateful. It's time to focus on you. You did enough for the ungrateful. Here's another favorite one of mine. As you start to walk on the way appears. As you start to walk on the way appears. That's one of my favorite ones. Don't be afraid to start over again. This time, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Do not waste time thinking about what you could have done differently. Keep your eyes on the road ahead and do it differently now. We all must suffer one of two pains, Pains. We all must suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So, some good stuff, man. I want y'all to do this. Shucks. I'm going to start talking about this type of stuff more so inside our VIP group. We all need a little bit of motivation. Motivation is not enough in itself, but it helps. And so I like talking about this type of stuff. And so I will start doing more of that in our VIP. If you're not a member of our VIP, consider taking a join. Go to the website, moveabroadandthrive.com, click on join VIP, see what the benefits are. There's a section there called Ask Cartes. You can ask me all the questions you want inside the VIP. That's cheaper than hopping on the phone for a telephone consultation. And you have access to the community. You can post all your questions there. Other people will chime in. And listen, so get in, man, because you're going to have a lot of folks in your ear telling you you're crazy, telling you that you're foolish and irresponsible and reckless, and you're going to need to cancel that noise out. And so let's do it. Thank you for watching. This is actually a short video today. I'm happy about that. So thank y'all for watching. Have a wonderful and blessed day.